Hi, are you really short on time and struggling to eat healthy because of it? Stay tuned because you're in luck. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my top secret hacks to fast meal prepping that has actually brought my entire meal prep time down from half a day to just an hour or so every week. So, if you're new to my channel, hi and welcome. My name is Jenn J. I am a nutritionist for the whole family, and I help empower overwhelmed and exhausted mothers recharge their batteries and feel good again in their bodies. And today I'm going to be sharing with you secrets to fast meal prepping when you're really short on time or you're really overwhelmed or you're just too tired to put good food on the table so that you can actually begin to eat healthier and commit to your health in a really simple way. Now, I'll tell you, when I first started meal prepping years ago, my life was very simple. My husband was working out of town. We lived alone in a small two-bedroom apartment with my dog. We had no children. I worked shift work, so my schedule was all over the place, but I would spend one day a month batch prepping entire meals to stuff the freezer with. And this worked for us at the time. And my husband would actually take these meals with him out of town for work. And then my work demands started to get heavier, and I started spending more time at work, and I moved away from shift work. It was more scheduled. And my husband was now working in town. So we were both home. We had just bought our first house. There was a lot going on. We were in renovations on top of that. And I was actually still at that time dealing with a lot of my own health issues and gaining weight. And so I was really trying to figure out a way that I could eat healthy and actually make it work for me without taking up more of my time. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up actually start to meal prep on Sundays for the week. And when I first got started, keep in mind I was in my early 20s. I was very new to this process. And I sometimes would take at least a half a day. I remember blocking out my entire Sunday afternoons from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m., sometimes till 5, just to meal prep. Now, in that time, I would make only lunches for myself and my husband, and that was it. So it would take me several hours to pump out maybe 10 lunches for the week. All right. Now, as I've evolved and refined this process and gotten very good at it, I only spend about 1 to 2 hours a week, still on a Sunday. But during that time, I actually pump out lunches for three of us here in the house because we have added to our family since then. Three snacks, so actually six snacks, because one snack, two snacks per person per day. Okay. So snacks for three people. And then I save myself so much time during the week at supper time. All right. And here's the thing, right? At the end of a long day or even in the middle of one, staring at a shelf of ingredients and imagining them into a healthy meal is actually really overwhelming. And I was in that struggle when I started meal prepping. It was wild. I was trying to eat cleaner, trying to eat healthier, trying to avoid ordering in. And I was just like, where do I start? How do I, bring some control into this whole process? Now, the cool thing is because I've refined this process, I've actually made meal prepping really easy here in the house. And I'm able to turn all of that prep work into full meals that actually caters to everyone in my home, which is incredible. Saves me so much time, I'm telling you. And so you can actually have, ready-made meals or low cook time meals waiting for you at the end of the day when you get home from work, because at the end of the day, like, nobody wants to spend hours in the kitchen. And I was at that point when I started working my 9 to 5, and we were still in renovations, and I was now pregnant, and we were adding to our family, and like I just didn't have the energy in me to go through all of that in the day and then spend at least an hour in the kitchen every night. It was ridiculous. So let's get started. Let's dive into some of these secrets that I use here in the house. Okay, first and foremost is I batch my ingredients. So after I get home from shopping, before I put everything away, I actually decide what everything's being used for, and I'll actually create batches for the week. So items that are being used together in a recipe will actually go together in a tub or in a box or in a bag in my fridge with a label saying what meal it will be on. The benefit to also doing this is that if you let's say you have meetings that run late one day, or you don't make it home before someone else in your house does, someone else in your house can actually start making the meal before you make it home, which is incredible, right? Because now you're not getting home and rushing to make a meal. You're getting home and maybe helping finish up a meal that's been started, right? Um, then your next option or secret that I use here is actually to cook ahead. Now, this is where I save so much time by working on a Sunday, all right? So once I've decided what ingredients are being used for what recipes and what my meals are going to look like all week, is I'll actually prepare a bunch of our ingredients beforehand. And this generally takes me 1 to 2 hours. And what I do during this time is I make sure to batch prep a bunch of our grains. So things like rice can be easily batch prepped in a large, like a rice cooker or a slow cooker, right? An instant pot as well. Or even just on the stove. You don't need fancy equipment, honestly. But you can make large batches of it to keep in the fridge for eating later on or for recipes later out, right? Another really great ingredient would be your meats. So if you're eating an omnivorous diet and you've got like your chicken and your beef and your pork and any eggs and stuff, you can actually prep a lot of that ahead of time during that time. So what I like to do is I actually start my grains and my proteins before I start anything else, because they can actually kind of cook independently, particularly if you are using something like a rice cooker, right? Like you don't have to watch your rice on the stove. You don't have to babysit it. Same thing with your meat if you're throwing it into the oven for, say, a sheet pan, right? So laying it out on a pan, seasoning it, and then throwing it all in the oven to cook. And then if you're eating a plant-based diet and you've got, beans and lentils that you need to prepare, I actually like to use my Instant Pot for that. And so I have separating inserts that go into my Instant Pot, and I can actually cook several kinds of different proteins all at once without them getting mixed up in the pot. And so that can actually just sit on the counter and do its thing while I prepare everything else. And what I like to do at that time while all of that is working is start chopping up some of my vegetables, start making things like a big salad, maybe even making them in a jar. I really love to have salads at lunchtime, so I actually do, while I'm chopping up all of these vegetables, is I'll actually make myself a salad in a jar for each day of the week, and I do the same thing for my husband so that he has those as well as part of his work lunch for the day. And so it just really allows us to have a lot going on at once, but not have to be babysitting all of it, because while you're prepping all of those vegetables, the rest of your ingredients are prepping at the same time. And so this is actually how I brought prep down to about 1 to 2 hours, because while I'm doing all that, I can actually then assemble lunches and snacks for the week, which is incredible. So having an idea of what planning out what those lunches are going to look like and those snacks can actually help you really facilitate this much quicker. All right. My next favorite hack is actually to measure twice. So, things like, if you're buying flour or rice and, or large bags, like bulk ingredients that don't actually fit into your batched boxes or bins, you can actually measure them out into the correct amounts into like a Ziploc baggie or a small box or a container, and then put that with the rest of your prepped ingredients. All right. This way you're not pulling things in and out of the pantry and the fridge all, when it comes time to actually cooking. You can save yourself a ton of time by just having all the pre-measured ingredients in one place, right? And then my final and super secret or amazing secret hack would be to double always. Right? So doubling or tripling a recipe can actually save you a ton of time, because then you can do one of two things. If you're, serving just yourself for those meals, you can divide it into individual portions once it's cooked. Then you're not cooking for yourself every single day. But same thing for the families. You can actually portion that out and put it in the freezer for another time. So maybe for a time where you didn't plan out a meal, for a time where you don't have anything prepared, or you don't have time, like really don't have time, or maybe you even just have, some friends pop in and say, hey, right around supper time, and you're like, oof, what are we going to feed them, right? So having extra prepared food in the freezer is a really great way to have more of those healthy options available to you when you really, really don't have the time, all right? So your weekly cooking and finalizing prep is actually really crucial to the success of your healthy eating goals. And I really believe that success starts with planning. So having a plan of what you're going to eat all week, and taking the time to make that plan happen by preparing those ingredients, right? So batching your ingredients together, doubling your recipes, measuring out your ingredients, prepping some of those ingredients beforehand and having them available cuts back on all of that time significantly. And what you'll find is you'll actually be able to put your dinner meals on the table in about 30 minutes or less by following this system. And your lunches and snacks are really going to be grab and go at this point from the fridge. So you're just grabbing them, putting them in your bag, and off you go to work, or wherever it is you're going for the day. And so it just ensures that you have better success in that process. So if you found this helpful and valuable, please subscribe to my channel here. I'm sharing more practical tips and solutions to healthy eating as busy moms, and you'll be able to follow along that journey with me. So thank you so much for watching, and keep living healthy one bite at a time. Bye, everybody.